he gave it to my father, who was also an only child. But then my father changed that routine, and he had 5 children, which I'm very thankful for, because I always had a great time with my brothers. So they were always very good to me. It was a great family unit. We stayed together. We went to church together. We ate meals together. It was just a great family unit.
So Grandpa was raised by his father and a stepmother. What happened to his mother?
His mother passed away when he was 5 years old.
Oh.
And he adored his mother. It was a very sad time in the family. I was not born at that time, but they said that Dad just really had a hard time with that. But then he got attached to Grandma, and it was when Grandma I knew, and she was a sweet lady.
Okay. What did she die of? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. I've kind of already answered this question, but you would describe your parents as having had a good marriage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, it was so good that after my mother died, she died first. My dad would not even have a cleaning lady come into the house because he was afraid that the town would talk about her as having a lady in the house. So he was a great husband, great father, great man.
So who would you describe as more strict, your father or your mother? Now really think about this. Who was the taskmaster?
I know, we've discussed that, and I feel like my mother was the disciplinarian. She always included my father, but my father always said, go talk to your mother. So she usually made the final decision in anything that I wanted to do. But he was the type of a father that I knew what he expected of us. He made that very clear. And one day when I was in grade school, I decided I stopped in the store on the way home, and I wanted one of the candy bars in the front case. So I went behind the counter and I reached in to get this candy bar, and all of a sudden I felt a presence. And I looked up, and there was my father. And he just looked at me, very sober-faced, and I just melted. I just put that candy bar right back in the case. I got up and I snuck out of there, and that's what my father expected me to do, I guess. And he never said a word to me. But I knew I was in big trouble if I ever did it again. So that was the type of discipline that my dad could exhibit, and my brothers, I'm sure, would agree with me on that. He never said much to us or scolded us, but we always knew that we didn't argue with my daddy.
So in your town, your parents or your dad earned money from the family store.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that was pretty much the only source of income.
Absolutely.
How would you say that your family compared to other people in the town financially? Like, if you had to describe it in terms of status.
I expect they were one of the top wage earners. My dad was on the school board, had quite a bit of control there. He was a deacon in the church, and he was very well respected in the community. People were, liked him, and he held many positions. I guess they just depended upon his knowledge and his expertise. And
so would you say you grew up feeling like you had a pretty privileged?
well, I'm sure that a lot of people probably felt that way, but I never thought about it. I guess I was a little better off than a lot of the people there. I knew that,
yeah.
But it wasn't a situation that was exhibited all the time. I mean, my family never took advantage of that position at all.
What would you say they spent their money on? What kinds of things?
Probably the important things in life, the needs of their children and their family, and they were educated. I mean, he educated all of them, sent them to college, and but very frugal on other things, and very. He was very active in the bank as well. None of us had any idea until my father passed away that he had saved a lot of money, and he was very well off, but he never showed it in any way. Our refrigerator was so old, and we kept telling him he should go buy a new refrigerator. Never did until after everybody moved out of the house. And it just was, his needs were very minor, and he got what he thought he needed. And he did spend money on a Cadillac. He did buy 2 or 3 Cadillacs, and that was his one expense that he gave to himself. And but we never needed for anything, and if we asked him for something, if it was reasonable, he always gave it to us.
How about family vacations? Did you take them?
Yes.
Okay.
We always went to Maine.
Do you want to talk about what that was like?
Oh, that was wonderful. 1 month. We always spent the month of August up in Maine. We went up, and they rented a house on the shore, and we stayed in the, we just lived in the house and acted like we did when we were home. Mother did all the cooking, and Dad and the boys went golfing. And Mother and I just stayed around and went to the beach, and it was a wonderful month. And I love Maine, and I still love Maine.
Do you like swimming in the ocean?
Oh yeah, yeah. Even in that frigid water, I went in it every day practically. Yes.
Having my coffee here. So, even though you didn't spend a lot of money, it sounds like you had a pretty good life.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned earlier this place called Camp. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Camp was a very rugged cabin on top of one of the little mountains behind us. And my grandfather gave that to my dad. I think I'm not sure whether it was when he graduated from high school or college, but he eventually gave it to my dad, and we used it as everybody, the whole family used it. Could go up there anytime they wanted to. No bathrooms, not much to cook. There was a oil stove, I guess. I don't know what it was. There was a stove we could cook, but No bathrooms and very rugged, but we loved it up there. It looked right out over the valley and over that village that we in Charlemont, and we just loved to go up there and spend the weekend. And we'd have cookouts, and we had our famous Avery rock fry.
Okay, you got to talk about that.
That rock fry.
What is a rock fry?
Rock fry was the big day of the year when we fixed that. And we had a big flat rock. It was, oh my gosh, about that big maybe. And it was flat. And my dad had built a little fireplace underneath of the rock. We'd light that fire, and we'd get that rock good and hot. We'd cook potatoes on it and fried onions, and ultimately the steaks, nice big steaks, and which came out of our store, of course. And that was the best meal that you ever ate. It was just so good, and we just gouge on that. That was a highlight of the trip. But
how'd you get up there to the camp?
We walked. Yeah, we hiked up the mountain. There were two ways in. One way you could drive Parkway, and we did that. It belonged there was a big field that belonged to one of our customers, and he always said that we could drive across the field anytime we wanted to get up Parkway, but the hardest part of it, we walked.
Cool.
It was fun.
So, we kind of covered some of this. You had 3 brothers, right?
Yes.
And you said how much older they were than you. Do you have any, or could you come up with a specific memory of each of those brothers? Like one, I know you must have millions.
Well, Bud was, we called him Bud. He was Burton. Burton was kind of the quiet one. But he was the best person in the world. I do not think my brother Bud ever spoke a cross word. I never heard it. Of course, maybe he did in his family, but he'd do anything in the world for him. And he was very close. I got, especially after he retired and I retired, we spent a lot of time together in North Carolina. He retired to North Carolina.